Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Nigeria Now on Echo Television, your afternoon program, where we give you some of the happenings in the nation, some of the things that we feel is very, very important that we bring to the table, discuss it. And you remember that you can drop your opinions, your suggestion on our platform, talking about Facebook and YouTube, because all your contributions are always welcome, because we really needed to see how together as a country we can put our hands together to do something better. I am Stella Elisha Dashom. I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tazi. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon, Sarah.
All right. Well, before we go straight into some of the issues, just to keep you a little bit updated with the fact that the federal government will begin talking about immigration and civil servants recruitment by August. It was supposed to end today, but they have extended the date. So for those who are interested, do remember that you can actually still be recruited between now down to August before September. That is when it will be closed. So for those who are interested in that as well, we are seeing that the Anambra judicial workers have actually begun an indefinite strike, talking about over the refusal by the state government to pay the consolidated judiciary salary structure. So they started that strike today. So just to keep you updated with what is happening. Now, we want to go into some of the issues we would love to discuss this afternoon, starting by the building collapse in Osun State, where we see that about 3 people have been trapped. And Rachel, I mean, this happened yesterday around 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. in Osun State, even though they said the building was an abandoned building. But then about 5 people were trapped, but then 2 were rescued, and then 3 people were still trapped as of the time this report was being filed. But Rachel, I just couldn't help but cast my mind back to what happened on Friday in Jos City, where we saw the building that collapsed, here the school building that collapsed, and then the entire Jos City was confused. The governor was able to visit the place. But then the reason why I'm taking us back, Richard, is the fact that from that Friday, not only we saw a building also collapsing in Abuja as well,
Yes.
where we saw that about 2 ladies or so were also trapped in the building. And then we've been having series of, building collapsing. And I remember you and I have always discussed the fact that not only are we seeing that right now, if we're going to talk about who is to be blamed, almost everybody is going to be blamed, Rachel, starting from the people who were giving the construction of the building, the supervisor, talking about the people who were meant to go and supervise and be sure that everything is going well. And even if we're going to talk about the school, even the proprietor or the proprietors of that school will be blamed, because it's expected that you should have known that that building was around a mining area, that building was shaky, and then you didn't do anything about that. And then it's just, it surprised me the fact that this building keep collapsing in the morning, because the Saint Academy that collapsed at around 8:30 a.m. in the morning. And then I happened to be in town around the time where we saw ambulances, fire service, trying to clear. In fact, the whole lane had to be cleared. And then just while the whole chaos was going on, a people around Samurumba Primary School was kicked by a car. Now, I don't know if that child made it, because the car was speeding when he hit that child. Now, the issue of building collapse is something that we've been seeing coming over and over and over. And you can't help but ask, right now, what should be done? Of course, we know that the rain is heavy. So some of this building, especially if the foundation was not being done well, the decking, all the cement, the thickness of some of the beams that need to be put, if you don't check all of these things, definitely we have issues such as this coming up. Right now, what can we do? Because, Rachel, if we don't do something, we're hearing that it happened in Abuja, it happened in Lagos, it happened in Jos. We never can tell what will be or which state is going to be the next on the list. So I really think this is where the government, starting from every level, need to check buildings. I know, recently I've been seeing that, for example, here in Jos, the GMDB have been going around trying to put some red ribbons on any building that they feel is on the road, maybe it's coming in between the master plan and all of that. But beyond just checking that, talking about some of these buildings that keep collapsing and the lives of people, what can the government do about this? Because I don't know, we're getting tired of recording victims over and over again.
Sarah, as you're going over the whole factors, key players, and all of that in the issues we're having concerning buildings collapsing, if we were to ask who is to be blamed for all of this, all fingers point to one person, the owner of the property. That is the number one person at fault. If a building should collapse today, who owns that property? I am a tenant and my building should collapse. Who is at fault? Who owns the property?
The landlord.
A school building collapse. Who owns the property? A government property collapse. Who owns the property? It is the government, because I said it. When we talk about everything in play, let's start the quality of the land. You bought it. You know the quality of your land. I don't want to believe that there's anybody that will remove their hard-earned money to buy a piece of land without knowing its quality. Even if you are a fool, you won't be that much of it, except if it's not your money, except if it's some stolen funds that you just want to quickly get rid of it. I don't think you will remove 1 million from your pocket, your hard-earned money that you have worked and toiled for, to go and buy a piece of land, and you will not do all your assignment to make sure you're getting the quality what that million naira you are about to spend. So first of all, what quality of land did the proprietor buy? If you go to buy a land and it's a mining site, past, present, or what, you will know it. It doesn't hide itself. Mining ponds, pits, holes don't hide themselves. They are there. You know what you're getting. Most of the times, they are being sold to you cheap. You've bought that land. What is the second phase of construction? You get a good engineer to come and map out a structure for you. It's not even architect yet. It's an engineer. What will be done to make sure, together with the architect, of course, designing a building that can stand. But these both key players are there. I believe an engineer first comes in place when you purchase.
You know the land and everything.
Exactly, when you purchase such a land. What is this person will give you, okay, this is the kind of, this holes, this person will come and calculate the depth, the damage of these mining points and all of that. And then what strength of concrete, what needs to be filled in, what needs to be there, the kind of building that you're supposed to build. There will be an advice. Okay, if you must build here, you can only build a bungalow. You can't build story buildings. For example, if you must build is one, this is the size, this is the thickness. So all of this consultation and work all goes back to the owner of the property. In any building collapse, because you know what, you can't, for example, I keep making emphasis, remove your hard-earned money and pay a contractor and say, okay, this is going to be the thickness of my building, for example, and you've given that contractor the money to make the concrete this thick, and then when you come, you will not check whether it's as thick as you have paid for or it's thin. It still boils down to you. It is your money. It is your work. It is your investment. So regardless of what might be the outcome, the proprietor, the owner of that school, the person who owns that land, who built that school, everything, every finger points back to that person. And this is where I believe the problem is. That over the years, people are not caring so much about quality anymore. You know why? Because they know they are not going to be at the receiving end of the problem. I don't think, if I know I will be the one sleeping every single day in my house, when it starts to shake, I'll be okay with it. But perhaps, I know it will be students, it will be someone else, it will be tenants. So in the end, if the building collapses, it's not collapsing on me. We are becoming wicked every single day, Sele. You will build a story building and it falls. is quality, is what you put into it. So what will okay, I believe that this is where the government steps in. Enough of the fault, putting fault on this thing. Of course they are the number one, but I believe, in my opinion, where the government comes in is in building inspection. Okay, it's not enough for you to have a JMDB approved building. It's not enough for a building, for a house owner to come and say, I want to build a land, I want to develop. We also need people from these state-owned organizations that are in charge. It's not just for you to come and put an X that the person is not supposed to build here. Your supervision should also be the quality of the building, most especially when you know that this building will be given out to people. These are the things that should be put in place. If you know that this is going to be a rented property, then now it becomes your business securing the lives of the people that might eventually end. When it's going to be a shop complex, when it's going to be a school, where people can be careless because they know they might not be at the receiving end of whatever disaster that will come as a result of a substandard building. This is where the government steps in, making sure that when someone comes and say, I need an approval for this, and that, you make sure that that person is building something of quality to affect things like this from happening at the end of the day.
And you're totally right. And I think another thing is the fact that we've had a number of people going ahead to build without even getting a C of O. You don't have approval from the government.
Yes.
And then, of course, we know that the government cannot be everywhere, in as much as they are meant to. At least every home is supposed to be registered.
Yes.
Every home is meant to be registered.
Yes.
So the government should know the number of houses, particularly in a particular area. But just for our own sake, just like you said, sometimes people are so wicked that they don't really check. I mean, after all, I'm not the one staying in this house, so I don't need to care about things. And then we had people, when you give a particular month, for example, 1 million naira for a particular building, then we say that it's 100,000 that's being used for that. Substandard materials are being used for building, and that is another thing we've been facing. So I'm hoping, honestly, because it shouldn't, when I just saw the story, I just couldn't help to see that because of somebody's carelessness, about 22 people, for example, the students there that died, 22 of them died. We had about 132 that were admitted in the hospital. Very few has been discharged. Some are still there. So I'm just hoping, let every key player, please just play your role. Do not neglect certain things you are meant to do, so that other people will not pay for your own crime. Now we're seeing that Ip Man and NUPEC actually initially started more like a strike. They suspended their operation. They didn't want to do anything, and the reason it was because of extortion coming from police, according to them, and all of that. But then as of today, they said they are withdrawing that. But then this is not the first time we're seeing that, the issue of fuel scarcity, them complaining about how much it will cost them from one part of the country to another. And then all of this thing keep coming up over and over. We bring it here, we discuss it. Just when we think that we have resolved this issue, we are back again to square one again. And this issue of extortion coming from our security agency really, really need to stop. I don't know what the government is doing about this particular action coming from our security agency, but they are giving the entire security agency a bad name. I am hoping that the government will look into this so that we don't keep having this issue coming up just when we are trying to recover from the fuel scarcity. We saw that throughout last week, there were queues in various parts of the country as a result of trucks not having easy access to come in because of weather, logistics, and all of that. But then, in as much as they have suspended whatever strike they wanted to start or the operation that they wanted to be on hold, I am hoping that we'll see a better body language coming from our security agency and other key players that will make movement, free for Ip Man, as well as some of these NUPEC, drivers that have to drive from one part to another, making sure that fuel is being made available to everybody.
So that when you're talking about the issue behind NUPEC and Ip Man saying, where the extortion is a role, we have to deal with diesel price, and then we are having to deal with security personnel on the road. And then I don't like casting my mind back a lot to the #EndSARS protest, because the protest made it look like it was only the youths of Nigerians that were struggling with bad governance and police brutality. And it is a fight for the entire country. And for me personally, that is why I don't like talking about that protest, because it was more than police brutality. It was governance and every other thing, but most importantly, police brutality. But then the police brutality is also the end result of bad governance. Either way, because we're talking about our security personnel not being funded properly. How much is a recruit earning? To be contented, we've said it a number of times, that it's not an excuse for whatsoever, but it's a factor that we cannot neglect. We can't turn a blind eye to it and be like, it's a good enough reason. It's not an excuse. It can't be accepted, but it is a factor, and it is there. And when we talk about certain things, we see a resurfacing, and it means that our voices haven't been heard. It's not been heard. It was not heard. And we are not even making progress yet. It means there's a call for a cry concerning police brutality. Extortion is still brutality either way. Because we've all traveled Nigerian roads one way or the other. We've seen the kinds of things that happen. You might not have witnessed the worst, but we've seen some bad and ugly things happening on the road, and you just can't help but wonder, where will it be? You travel, and literally drivers have to keep money
by the
side just to keep paying their way. And when you look at it, what are these? You will see an anti-terrorist squad just stopping and not doing the real work that they are supposed to do, but rather just trying to extort and all of that, and you just can't help but wonder. So for me, right, Ip Man and Nupeng also needs, it's not just enough for them, it's collaborative, right, to keep making their voice being. I know it comes, we will all feel it, because eventually there will be scarcity of fuel. We'll have things like petrol pump prices going high and all of that. But I believe that let every union, organization, group keep trying to make their voice being heard, because we keep seeing corruption taking a toll on us as a citizen. Are we going to deal with our government bad policies that is the reason why we are where we are when it comes to the prices of certain things in the market, or are we going to deal with the corruption that we are feeling it directly on us? It might be a good thing, of course, that these people are saying, you know what, we are going to resume operations. However, I hope that the message is being passed, and from time to time they try to make their message yes, go across and all of that, and every Nigerian that can have a voice to be heard, to do something about certain things. And I really hope that we do not keep quiet. I know Nigerian youth were silent in a bloody way and in a very cold and unacceptable way, but it shouldn't stop us from saying we demand and we deserve good governance, because this corruption shows it in every walk of life. Nobody is left out in feeling bad governance in this country.
It just cripples everything. And just like you rightly stated, I mean, when we had the hashtag EndSARS, it looked like it was just for a particular body, and then nobody was saying, okay, yes, this is really what is happening.
Yes.
And we've seen that happening. For example, now when we see that ASU is going on strike, we see other union making, okay, it's the business of ASU, forgetting the fact that once it affects one part, every other part will crumble eventually, whether you like it or not.
True.
If our lecturers are not in the school, there will be no doctors in the hospital, neither will there be other professions, so we'll be complaining that we don't
Yes,
have. So
exactly.
it affects everywhere. So I hope that we'll see that in that view. Now quickly, before we round up, is seeing the issue of the financial or local government autonomy, as we'll call it. Last week we saw where the federal court, talking about the Supreme Court, gave its verdict, and they said, you know what, finally the local government have can actually now have their own financial autonomy. That is to say, no governor is going to, there will be no joint account henceforth, because any joint account is illegal. They should leave them to operate as they want to operate. And we saw a number of people coming out to say they really applauded, the president applauded, the former vice president Atiku applauded, and many other people applauded, even though I think I saw Governor Fayose saying that, I mean, you can't
separate a baby
the
or something. Yes.
from, using some, proverbs and all of that. But then we cannot overemphasize the importance of our local government to stand on their own.
Yes.
Because we're talking about, not only are we saying, okay, they should have their own money, but we're talking about henceforth now we begin to see that people will hold the local government accountable. Okay,
of course,
you've been saying that you want this, finally you've gotten it. Can we now have the evidence of everything? Can we now hold you accountable? Can you now serve us as you should be? And now we're seeing that a number of states are trying to rush. It's more like a rush hour to conduct local government elections, because they stand to actually risk not getting their allocation if they at all, Rachel, zero allocation if something is not being done. So I think that is the situation of things as it is presently. And I think that a number of governors are shaking presently if they do not do elections soon.
I mean, Sally, and it only proves the fact that local government autonomy is important for development, because those who didn't see the need to conduct an election in their local government are doing it now. So if you knew that local government governance is important, why were you delaying it all those while? Why are you now moving to do your elections to have some other? You see how deliberate we are, intentional about not growing in this country, and this is the part that breaks our heart, because we see that this is important work, this is work that needs to be done, but for some reason we don't want to do it unless certain things are put in place, and then everybody is rushing and all of that. When I saw that statement, babies grow. We didn't become a republic yesterday. We are over 60 years and we've had local government for long. There's no mother baby issue here. Is more about let the mother, let the baby grow, because the mother have been feeding off the baby for too long that the baby is malnourished. That is what this is, a typical case of malnutrition, where a mother is not fending well enough for her child or her baby. And if we are going to use that knowledge, yes, the local government needs to grow and it needs to feed itself. That is where we are. So let that happen, let it take place. I like that it puts governors on their toes, like concerning what to do. We need to see more of that. We'll just wait. And the best part for me is that now the State House Assembly needs to wake up, because
they have been set up
you have a constituency. Wake up and watch what is happening, because the local government now need to thrive and need to grow. There is no excuse anymore. So you should wake up. If you are sleeping because the state was controlling the local government and you think, okay, we are in the state, now you have a work to do. The work you were running away from, sit down.
It starts now.
Come up with state laws that will govern, guide, protect, and make things in order for local governments to thrive, and stop trying to shy away from what you begged us to vote you into office
Very
for.
true. And the word for me that you use is the fact that this local government needs to be protected.
Yeah.
And I hope that this State House of Assembly realize they need to protect the local government from this, what will I call it? Because the governors are more feeding on them, like they are prey feeding on them. So I hope that they will free them for carnivorous animals called
we hope
governors.
so.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. All right, thank you to our viewers. Thank you to even the crew for making this program a success. We look forward again to doing this tomorrow. Do have a wonderful day ahead.